All right, this is the Fantasy Sports Boss. Welcome to the Week 12 wrap-up. It was an adventure. There's no doubt about it, at least for me personally here in fantasy football. Week 12, just a lot of crazy, performances, big-time performances like we see every week. And certainly there's some injuries that we're going to have to get to. I'll go through all that today, as we go through the show. So, and it seemed like certainly a lot of running backs wound up going down injured today, some more severe than others, which we're going to get to. Going to go through all the games, all the big performances, all the duds, and there was certainly quite a few, on both of those fronts. Now, for me personally, my fantasy football teams, the one team that I've been rolling all season with is now going to be 10-2. Just had a huge day once again on that team, and everything seems to be going right on that one particular team. The one league that I keep talking about that I'm frustrated in, that did not go well today at all. So I'm going to drop to 7-5 in that league, and it was a bloodbath. No other way to say it in this particular league. I really didn't have a chance. It's one of those weeks where I actually had a pretty good scoring week. I would have outscored every other team. So out of the other 10 teams in the league, I would have outscored 9 of them. But the team I played this week just went ballistic. So, he had Justin Herbert, who scored 34 fantasy points. He had Chris Godwin, who scored 29 fantasy points. He had Josh Jacobs, who scored 33 fantasy points. But we have to worry about him now because it looks like he aggravated his calf injury. Took 31 carries, 144 yards and a score, 6 catches for 74 yards. So Josh Jacobs had a day. It helped bury me. I'm actually trailing 148 to 117 in that league that I am very frustrated with. So I'm going to drop to 7-5. That's how it goes. Sometimes you have those weeks where you just run into the hot team, and you would have probably outscored everybody else. But at least for me this week, that did not happen. So. Josh Jacobs had a day, and there's nothing you could do about it. That game's actually in overtime right now, 34-34. I'm just curious to see now that he's out of the game if it's because obviously I'm not watching it right now. If Zamir White is getting run, it looks like Jacobs is still out there. So 32 carries. I mean, that's just ridiculous to give him 32 carries, if you ask me. But Zamir White, only 2 carries for 28 yards. But all my teams in the league were low scores. Yeah, Michael P., it was rough, man. I'm telling you, to be on the receiving end of the ass kicking that I got in that one particular league, the guy is on pace that I'm playing to have like 172 points. You just throw your hands up and just salute to him. Good job. And that's it. That's all you can do. And I would have beaten, like I said, 9 of the other 10 teams. But that's what makes fantasy football so frustrating sometimes. All right. So like I do every week, I'm going to go through all the games, talk about all the big performances and whatnot. Make sure you hit the subscribe and the notification button. Second stream of the day, had a really good one this morning. Appreciate those who joined me for that. Well, we'll start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, believe it or not, at 5-6 are still leading the NFC South. And this was a bad job by Tampa Bay. They should have won this game. They screwed around with the timeouts late in the game, didn't leave themselves enough time. Brady had to throw the Hail Mary, and then it went to overtime where Nick Chubb scored. And Nick Chubb, of course, was, my opponent had him. But the biggest thing with this game is Rachaad White. So I recommended Rachaad White everywhere. I was completely invested in him. For better or worse, and I said I would stand up here, in the stream and say and take the hits that if he didn't have a good game. But you know what? He put up 19 plus fantasy points, so it was a decent outing for him. 14 carries for 64 yards, 4.6 a pop. So he ran well. Would like to have seen a little bit more, a few more carries, but showed off his PPR chops by catching 9 passes for 45 yards. So, Michael P., he does run very hard. He's got good burst. Like I said, 19 plus fantasy points. I'll take that. I'm actually very happy with that. I think the line of demarcation on the poll that I put up on an earlier stream was, is he going to go for more than 15 fantasy points? And he did that. So overall, I think it was a decent outing for him. Is Leonard Fournette going to come back next week? That might muddy things up a little bit. If you're a Rachaad White owner, I own both guys. If both are healthy next week, I'm going to start White and leave Fournette on the bench. And that's just how it goes because White is the hot item right now. Now, as far as Tom Brady, 29 to 43, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He played fairly well. 43 pass attempts. Again, Tampa Bay is just throwing it. I mean, that's just all they do. It was mostly effective today. And the biggest beneficiary from that was Chris Godwin, 12 catches, 110 yards and a touchdown. I'm doubly invested in Godwin. I love the fantasy value that he brought this season in terms of his draft choice, where he went in drafts. It was very, mostly the 6th, 7th, 8th round, tier or region, if you will, where Godwin wound up getting selected. And Godwin is really, really, going nuclear right now, for lack of a better term. And it comes at the expense of Mike Evans, who only caught 2 passes for 31 yards. I've spoken many times about how I don't think Mike Evans is right physically. I think he's very beat up health-wise. Does not look good at all. Now, Godwin has gotten has gotten stronger as the season has gone on. He admitted openly earlier in the year that he did not have his old burst back, coming back from the torn ACL and also the hamstring injury. But Godwin looks great. And remember, down the stretch last season, he was a PPR cheat code before he tore his ACL. He's doing that again. He was huge last week. He scored a touchdown. He was huge, even bigger this week with the 12 catches for 110 yards, and he scored. And yes, my opponent in the frustrating lead had Chris Godwin also. So yeah, got screwed no matter how you look at it. Jacobs just got a 60. Okay, so there you go. Jacobs just got a 60-yard TD. I'm not watching it, so let's just see. I'm just curious now how many. So I'm losing that game now, that fantasy matchup, 162 to 117. And my opponent's on pace for 184 points. I'm on pace for 131, and I would have outscored, based on pace, I would have outscored everybody else in the league except one other team. Jesus. Josh Jacobs, 48 points, 33 carries for 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 catches for 74 yards. That poll that I put up, it's not even worth even having a discussion now. Jacobs was the absolute beast of the week. 48 points. Jesus Christ. Now, you don't like to see the 33 carries. It looked like, he had come out, maybe re-injured the calf. He did come back, obviously, and scored that touchdown, 60-yard run. Man, you know what? Honestly, at this point, you got to think that Jacobs is in the discussion for fantasy football MVP. That's how good he's been. I mean, that's just silly. 1, 2, 3. That is the 4th game that this season that he's gone for more than 30 fantasy points. And again, 33 carries is a lot. I mean, that's crazy. That's insane. The guy that drafted him doesn't have a clue about football at all. Drives me. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy how from playing in the Hall of Fame game where everybody and not picking up his 5th-year option. I mean, how dumb does that look now? Jacobs is going to hit free agency. That all worked out pretty swell for him. Glad at last minute started Keenan Allen over Mike Evans. Yeah, Mike Evans does not look good, James. Not look good at all. But geez, Josh Jacobs, unbelievable. So I got my ass kicked even more than I even anticipated in that one particular league. So in that league, my opponent had Chris Godwin, Nick Chubb, Justin Herbert, Josh Jacobs. Not a chance. So anyway, let me get back to that Tampa Bay Cleveland game. And if you just join us, make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the notification button as well. A lot of injuries today as well that we're going to touch on. So as far as the rest of the Tampa Bay offense, it was really just Godwin and Rachaad White. That was pretty much it. For Cleveland, Amari Cooper, 7 for 94. So Amari Cooper continues his very underrated good campaign this season. He's going to get Deshaun Watson back now. Wheels up all around for this offense for Cleveland. It's going to be a real show, I think, when Deshaun Watson knocks off the rust. Godwin and Cooper helped me handle my matchup. Yeah, both guys were fantastic. And again, Cooper kind of slips through the cracks when people talk about the top wideouts in football. He's been phenomenal this season. Now, David Njoku, I had a lot of questions on whether to start him this week. He went 5 for 29 and a touchdown. So, really saved his day with that touchdown there. Nick Chubb, 26 for 116 and a touchdown. Kareem Hunt, he's kind of a forgotten guy now. 5 for 15, only 1 catch for 6 yards. Kareem Hunt has done nothing this season. So, again, like to see what happens with Rachaad White next week when Leonard Fournette comes back. Total fake news about Jacobs being injured. Yeah, you know what? I saw the alert on that he might have reacted. He was questionable with the calf injury or whatever. I will be honest with you. I was not watching that game, so I don't know exactly what happened, what generated that report, but yeah, it certainly looked like fake news. Lamar almost had another dud today. Yeah, so Lamar Jackson, let me go to that one now because I just lost my shit when it came to Jackson this week. Now I know he scored 25 fantasy points, but it was really that last minute touchdown and the 2-point conversion that did it. So this offense for Baltimore is completely broken. 4 Justin Tucker field goals where they just couldn't punch it in. I know Duvernay dropped a touchdown pass, so I can't kill Lamar too much. But Jackson, 16 of 32. I mean, completing 50% of his throws. That's pathetic. 1 touchdown. He ran for 89 yards, which saved his day. But, man, I am frustrated with Lamar Jackson as a Lamar Jackson owner for sure. Mike Evans officially benchable. I wouldn't say he's benchable. He's still Mike Evans. I think, even as a wide receiver 3, you still play him. Pitiful performance. Definitely a pitiful performance. Pierce also done for the year. Can't trust him. Get some flexing. Jamal Williams every. Yes. So remember, guys, I feel like a lot of my okay, so Allen Robinson, this just came through. Breaking news. Allen Robinson needs foot surgery. He'll be out the rest of the season. What else? What else with the Rams, right? Cooper Kupp's done. Matthew Stafford's done. Allen Robinson's now done. I mean, this team's just pathetic. I mean, it really is. They tried hard today, but it was just not going to happen. So I feel like a lot of my reads were on this week. Believe me, I've gotten a lot wrong this season. I feel like this week I did fairly well. Dameon Pierce, I had said has hit the rookie wall 100%. He's going to be hard to trust the rest of the year. He is absolutely on fumes. He was last week. Didn't do much, hardly anything this week. And I think the Texans are starting to realize that now. That's why they brought in Eno Benjamin. I don't think it's going to be a good ending to the season for him. I'm so mad I benched. Oh, you benched Josh Jacobs. Man, I know. That's tough, man. And Jacobs isn't a running back 1. That is tough. I know. But the calf injury, the late start, I mean, who knew? Should I drop Evan Engram for Austin Hooper? I mean, you could. I think it's 6-1, half dozen the other. Absolute battle this week. Opponent won't go away. Up by 2.5-ish with Aaron Jones going, and I have Jones going tonight against Indy kicker and Philly D. Philly, the Packers should be able to score points. I think you're okay. But, yeah, it is annoying when you play that guy, somebody and you just can't put them away and they just hang around. That can be very annoying. Pay Josh Jacobs right now. He just got me 48 fantasy. I know 48 fantasy points. My God. I mean, that's a season defining performance if I've ever seen one in terms of fantasy football. Thoughts on White? How much will Lenny be involved? You can't put the genie back in the bottle when it comes to Rachaad White. He was tremendous. He had 9 catches. He was putting up a wide receiver performance in conjunction with what he did on the ground. Average 4.6 a carry. Fournette's not even sniffing those numbers. So I think even if Fournette comes back next week, I think it's going to be 60-40 Rachaad White. They got to be careful because Fournette tends to pop off, and I know Brady is close with Fournette, so they're going to have to schmooze him a little bit. So I think it's going to be a 60-40 split. White's still going to start, though. Starter Carr finally got 20-plus for my QB position. Yeah, Derek Carr hasn't been good either. As far as Allen Robinson, it was a stress fracture. So a stress fracture on his foot, and he turned out to be a dud. I was high on him this season. I admit it. Another lesson I'm going to learn now, and I'm going to go over all the things at the end of the season that I'm going to carry over for next year. One of them is just not to trust guys like Cortland Sutton, Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, guys whose acumen of winning contested balls, jump balls, in tight passes due to a lack of speed. That's a problem when they start inching up to get to the high 20s, and then they start losing a step, and then they become useless overnight. And all 3 of those guys pretty much are like that right now. Let's see, Kamara Yeah, Kamara, not a good. He fumbled there. Didn't look good with that fumble either. Got Hurts, Jones, and Campbell in my lineup. Projected to win by 2 points. Okay, right now, you guys think I should keep Paris Campbell in or out, and Christian Watson? That's tough. I think Alan Lazard is going to get Darius Slay. So I think Christian Watson But then again, both cornerbacks are supreme in Philadelphia. So I think you're better off with Campbell. James Bradbury, his metrics are just as good as Darius Slay in terms of shutting down receivers. So I think I would go with Campbell. You better have taken a committee running back than taking a guy like Robinson, etc. I could see that. Players and contract year strategy and fantasy works. Lamar Jackson over 20 fantasy points today. Josh Jacobs. Yeah, but Death Lord Jackson really wasn't very good up until this week, and he wasn't even good in this game up until the last 2 minutes. So long as AJ Brown doesn't put up another dud, I win this week. Yeah, you know what? I think we're due for an AJ Brown explosion. Given his MO going back to Tennessee, I think he's going to have a big game. As far as the rest of this game, Jacksonville, listen, Trevor Lawrence, 29-37, 3 touchdowns, the 2-point conversion as well. Trevor Lawrence was fantastic. He's starting to get it. It took a little longer than we thought. I think Urban Meyer really effed him up, for lack of a better term, and really delayed his development in talking about, Trevor Lawrence there. But I think the light bulb is now starting to go on. So say what you want about Lamar Jackson. Always fantasy relevant. Oh, absolutely. He's 100% fantasy relevant. And I own him in both of my leagues. I really like Lamar Jackson as a fantasy player, but the last month plus, has been rough. There's no other way to look at it. Last drive from Trevor Lawrence was good. Yeah, it totally was. And, as a Lamar Jackson owner, I was hoping they didn't go for 2, but they did and didn't give Jackson really a chance to get some more fantasy points. That's the thing now, where teams are going to go for 2 instead of going to overtime. That's just the way it is now. You saw the Chargers do it successfully with Justin Herbert to Gerald Everett, and I actually really like the call. It shows a lot of faith in the offense. Gus Edwards, 16 of 52 and a touchdown. He's boring as hell. I really don't want him anywhere near my teams. So Travis Etienne, another foot injury. He's had a long history of foot injuries. This is concerning. Only had 2 carries for 3 yards. God, he didn't even catch a pass. So 0.3 fantasy points. My heart goes out to Travis Etienne owners. That's beyond rough. So, you just can't really, you picked up Hasty. Yeah, Mike P, but I think it's going to be Darrell Henderson, because Hasty was pretty brutal in terms of at least running it. 12 for 28, that's not going to cut it. He did catch 5 passes for 67 yards and a score, which is good. But I think Darrell Henderson, they got him for a reason. I think he might be the one. If ETN misses time, and given his history of foot injuries, I'm a little concerned about this. Justin Tucker kick was brutal. Yeah, it was. I mean, he's the best kicker in football, but that's tough to ask. Dual threat quarterbacks in fantasy are much. Yes, I've said this many times, Death Lord. Next year, I'm all in. I'm making sure I get one of those dual threat, whether it's Jackson again, Hurts, Fields, Allen, Mahomes. One of those guys are going to be on my team next season for sure. I'm definitely gonna make sure I have them. So Zay Jones, 11 for 145. I mean, that's just silly. Zay Jones, what he did today. And, the Jaguars had to come from behind and throw a lot of passes in the second half. Christian Kirk, 4 for 46. He's running very hot and cold. Evan Engram, 1 catch for 4 yards. He's fallen off the map completely. And the one thing too about Jacksonville, it's getting really difficult to pinpoint each week who's going to be the guy. Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Evan Engram, Marvin Jones, they've all alternated good weeks. So it's really hard to trust any of these guys. Mark Andrews, 4 for 50. He's been very disappointing. I know he's been banged up. It just hasn't happened for him. Demarcus Robinson came back to earth with a thud, 1 catch for 17 yards. I mean, what the hell happened there? Dropped a touchdown pass. And just a rough day at the office for him. Joe Burrow's the only non-dual threat QB I'd want. Got him in the 5th round this year. Yeah, listen, he's young though. Aaron Rodgers, Stafford, Brady, those quarterbacks that have the same physical attributes of a Joe Burrow in terms of not being runners. That's not that Burrow being younger helps him. All right, breaking news again. Eli Mitchell, possible MCL sprain in his knee. Not to be as serious as the MCL injury suffered in week 1. So again, Elijah Mitchell just can't stay healthy. It's the same old story with him. So if you owned Elijah Mitchell as a handcuff for Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason is now the guy you're going to have to pick up. If you're a McCaffrey owner, you have to have the backup. just because of his injury history. Josh Jacobs deserves a steak dinner after that performance. My God, only 2 points shy of 50. Yeah, I mean, seriously, I think the all-time record, I believe, is Alvin Kamara, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was 54. I might be wrong on that. I know Mixon, I think, was 52. I think Kamara has the record of 54. Burrow just has a talent to throw over 300. Yes, he does. So I'm up to that game right now. Listen, this was a big win for the Bengals. Statement win, 20-16 over the Tennessee Titans. As far as Joe Burrow was concerned, 22 of 37, 270. Only threw for one touchdown. He actually did run for 32 yards, so there was a little bit of running action there. But generally, Burrow has been very good week in and week out. 5-game win streak, teams 8-4. Good job, Caden. Tua, Chubb, Henry Cook, Hopkins. Hopkins had a weird day. How should I be feeling? Love Schultz, love CD, love Hopkins. Tua's been unbelievable. He's in the MVP. I think your team's good. Chubb and Henry, you didn't get you don't get a lot of receptions, but they've been so exceptional this season. I don't think it really even matters. I think your team's very good. Burrow, Higgins stack proved lethal. Yes, I have T. Higgins in the league where I'm now 10-2. That league that I'm 10-2 in, before I get off the stream, I wanted to go over the team because I was showing it to somebody else and you know what? Visually, that team is not really impressive, but it's getting it done. I have Kelsey on that team. I have Ramondre Stevenson on that team. I have Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields. My receivers are just okay. I have T. Higgins, who's been great the last couple of weeks. Alan Lazard. I have Jonathan Taylor, who's been a disappointment up until lately. So they've been very good. But visually, if you looked at it, you'd be like, oh, this team's just okay. Whereas the team that I'm now 7-5, it's completely stacked. So that's just how it goes, I guess. Chance Josh Jacobs avoids injury this coming week after that performance because the calf is going to be. I didn't understand why they gave him so many carries with the calf injury. That's asking for trouble, but that's Josh McDaniels, who's a complete buffoon. So I'm not completely surprised there. 49ers offensive players are giving me New England vibes. What do you mean by that, New England vibes? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Should we be worried about Higgins when Chase is back? George, Higgins will play off of Chase. I think he's going to drop down to high-end wide receiver 2 range, which is still fine. He was a solid mid-teens to upper teens guy when Chase was on the field, 20 to 25 with Chase sidelines. So I think it is a little bit of a dip, but I don't think it's that drastic. Ryan Tannehill didn't do anything. No passing touchdowns. Derrick Henry, really, 17 for 38 rushing, 3 catches for 79 yards. So he did most of his damage in the passing game. Samaje Perine did the job. 17 for 58 running, scored a touchdown, 4 for 35 receiving. So the points were there in a PPR league. Trade Chase now. You could try. I don't know if you're going to get equal value for him just because he hasn't been on the field. So T. Higgins, 7 for 114 and a touchdown. He was phenomenal. This guy is a wide receiver 1 on 90% of the teams. But with Jamar Chase being the alpha male in the wide receiver room for Cincinnati, Higgins takes a little bit of a backseat. But, man, he is extremely talented. There's no doubt about that. Tyler Boyd, another dud, 2 for 16. You could drop him everywhere if you're holding on to him with the hopes that things would get better there. All right, so that brings me to Treylon Burks, who went 4 for 70. Not bad. So that's 2 weeks in a row now that Treylon Burks has been good. And the reason why I bring up Treylon Burks, I did a video today, is that I got a message from somebody in my league saying, why didn't my Treylon Burks touchdown count? So Derrick Henry, on his way to the end zone, fumbles it into the end zone. Treylon Burks jumps on it, touchdown Tennessee, right? So I checked, and yes, he did not get the touchdown in the league that I'm in both leagues I'm in. I actually got texts from both people that owned him in the 2 respective leagues. The reason why, and these are both Yahoo leagues, is that we did not include in our settings offensive player recovering fumbles for touchdowns. We don't include that. That's not part of the default settings in Yahoo. So other than adding the PPR option, we're pretty much as unoriginal as it gets. That's what I was looking for. No bells and whistles in our leagues, other than no kickers, and one of the leagues, no defense, and we have PPR. So we did not include offensive players, fumble recovery touchdowns. So the Treylon Burks touchdown didn't count. And, certainly can't change the rules after the fact, but I'm just curious how many leagues that you guys were in where that actually counted. Because we've never had that feature in our leagues, the ones that I'm in at least. Rate this team. I have Devontae Adams, excellent. Hill, excellent. Jacobs, excellent. Listen, if you don't Death Lord, if you don't win with this team, then I don't know what to tell you. You must have run into some really bad luck. That is a beyond stacked team. The top three guys, especially, are just out of this world. All three of them are in the fantasy football MVP consideration. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Josh Jacobs. They're all in that consideration for sure. Justin Herbert, especially once he gets Mike Williams back, is going to be even better. He was phenomenal. I'm starting Burks over Mike Evans next week. I think, James, listen, I don't blame you for that one bit. So Miami, very workmanlike, 30-15 win over Houston. Kyle Allen, it was as ugly as we expected it would be. No need to go in on that. Tua Tagovailoa, 22-36 for 299 and one passing touchdown. Listen, just the one passing touchdown. But what I was afraid what was going to happen in this game is that Miami, which they did, jumped out ahead, and he would take an early seat, which he did for Skylar Thompson. So that cut down the potential opportunities for him in terms of accruing fantasy points. Jeff Wilson, 13 for 39. He did score a touchdown. Did get banged up a little bit, but he's going to be all right. One catch for 13 yards. So not as good of an outing as we thought it would be, because he did leave for a time to get looked at into the locker room. And, of course, the game got out of hand early, so that took him off the field as well. Brandon Cooks went 5 for 59. Nico Collins 6 for 44. So, they both did fairly well, but nothing major. Christian McCaffrey irritated his knee today, according to Kyle Shanahan. So I don't know if that's something that we have to worry about. McCaffrey's almost made it through the season. He's almost there. But now he's got a little bit of a knee irritation. So rough day for a running back if you're on San Francisco. Rate this other team of mine. I have Kelsey, Ramondre Stevenson, Nick Chubb, Lamar Jackson, Olave, Pittman, Jamar Chase, Christian Kirk, Deshaun Watson, Tony Powell. Yeah, I mean, listen, both of your teams are stacked. I would think that one or both of them should win. I don't really have any suggestions where you could really improve either one of them. Tyreek Hill went 6 for 85. So, for him too, a workmanlike effort. Jalen Waddle, 5 for 85. So, both guys, 18, 19 fantasy points. Good. No issues there. So, nothing spectacular coming out of that game on Miami's. And now, Dameon Pierce. So 5 carries for 8 yards, 3 catches for 8 yards. He has no explosion left in his legs. He's completely shot. He's tired. The long season is getting to him. I think it's going to be, like I said last week, it's going to be a rough ending to the season. He's being dragged down now by the ineptitude of the Houston offense. Lovie Smith said Kyle Allen's going to start again next week. I actually almost would rather see Davis Mills. It's just beyond gross, this Houston offense. That's how bad it is. Up 125 to 119 as Philly defense kicker. Do I have a chance? That could be very close. If Green Bay scores points and they knock down the Philly defense and maybe get into the negative points, you have a shot, Kyrie, but I don't think you're going to win that matchup. I have to be honest with you. I think that's going to be tough. The team I just mentioned, I have Kelsey and Lamar. Is there anything I could trade that gets me Amari Cooper? I think it's hard trading, receivers for receivers. I mean, listen, you could offer Deshaun Watson and maybe Christian Kirk and see if that does it. If he needs a quarterback, that's probably your best bet there. All right. Mike freaking White. Holy crap. So Zach Wilson had to be watching the Jet game today saying, holy shit, I'm never seeing the field again. And I think my Jets career is over. Mike White comes in, touchdown on the first drive, 22 of 28, 315, 3 touchdowns. Like, holy shit. Like, this was unbelievable. Like, literally comes off the bench. And he did that last year against Cincinnati, where he went absolutely crazy. And he did the same thing here against the Bears. Now, granted, it's the Bears, who have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, but it was pouring rain in that game throughout the entire game. So that's not easy for any quarterback to operate in those conditions. The wind picked up as the game went on. He was absolutely locked in. And the thing that I noticed with Mike White today, as soon as he gets the ball off the snap, he goes through his reads very quickly. He gets the ball in and out quick. He's got a quick release. He's accurate. He puts the ball in the numbers. Zach Wilson is a deer in the headlights guy. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. Listen, that sparked the entire offense. And if Mike White can continue to play like this Jets team could do things in the postseason. I really believe it. And this is coming from a Giant fan. The defense is phenomenal. They're racking up sacks left and right. They have a shutdown corner. They have a Pro Bowl defensive tackle in Keenan Williams. This team is legit. I hate to say it as a Giant fan, but the Jets are really going places. All right, ETN update. It looks like it's a foot injury. I haven't gotten any updates since on that. Hopefully it'll come through during the stream. But with a history of foot injuries, we got to be a little bit careful. Yeah, absolutely insane with Mike White for sure. The biggest beneficiary was Garrett Wilson, 5 for 95 and 2 touchdowns. Wow. Elijah Moore only had 2 catches, but they went for 64 yards and a touchdown. So, you're getting you got 14 fantasy points from Elijah Moore when you pretty much got nothing out of him the entire season. So things are really looking up for Elijah Moore. It looks like Garrett Wilson too is really going to take off in this offense. As far as the running game, Zonovan Knight, 14 carries for 69 yards. He played great. Even Ty Johnson, 5 for 62. Michael Carter injured his ankle. He's going to get reevaluated. He only went 6 for 21. He looked like the worst running back out of the 3 that were getting carries today. And Carter, 2 catches for 15 yards. So I expected a little bit more out of actually a lot more out of Michael Carter today. But I didn't expect the Zonovan Knight usage. The NC State kid who runs with good power. Michael, he's got an ankle injury. Robert Saleh said he's going to be reevaluated tomorrow. So that means there's some concern about his ankle. There was no, he's going to be fine. He's day-to-day. He's going to be reevaluated tomorrow. So it's something that we're going to have to wait to see. If Breece Hall was healthy, Jets would be favored to be number 1. Yeah, they would definitely be, I think, one of the favorites. David Montgomery, he's getting the workload. Actually, Montgomery, I got to be fair. He was pretty good in this one. 14 of 79. That's 5.6 a pop. He also caught 3 passes for 34 yards. Darnell Mooney did absolutely nothing like I said he would. He had Sauce Gardner. I told you he was a clear bench guy all, for this particular week. Went out injured. He got rolled up from behind, left leg injury. He too is going to be evaluated again. That didn't look good. Cole Kmet, 3 for 27. He didn't do anything either. He cooled down a lot. But the bigger story here is just the Jets' performance, and it was a big one. Any updates on Tyreek Hill? They're saying it was cramps. Yeah, it's cramps. He's going to be fine. No need to worry about Tyreek Hill. He's Tyreek Hill. Say what you want about Hill. He plays through injuries. So I'm not concerned about him at all. The Washington Commanders, look out. The Washington Commanders are coming. Myself as a Giant fan, I didn't like to see them win again, but this team is playing well. They've gotten a spark from Taylor Heineke. Ron Rivera is one of the better coaches in the NFL that people don't talk about. Heineke threw 2 touchdowns. He did throw an ugly pick, but he was very efficient. He's doing the job, just like with Mike White with the Jets. Backup comes in, starts lighting it up. You're not going to go back to the starter. Sorry, Carson Wentz. Too bad. You're a punk anyway. Nobody likes you. Just go away. So the Atlanta run game. Tyler Algier and Cordell Patterson were both very good. They each got 11 carries. Algier, 54 yards. Patterson, 52. Algier's having a nice rookie season. He's running with power. He's got some underrated speed. I like the way he's developing. Brian Robinson, another rookie back, had his best game by far, 18 for 105. He even contributed in the passing game. 2 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown. And, in his last year at Alabama, Robinson had over 30 catches. He was a good receiver for the Crimson Tide. So this is not something that's like, oh, wow, he caught a couple of passes. That's a bonus. No, he's capable of doing that. But because of Antonio Gibson being around, they don't really take advantage of it as much. Gibson caught 3 passes for 22 yards, ran the ball 9 times for 32 yards. So he was pretty ineffective. But this Commanders team is doing really well. Terry McLaurin, 4 for 48. You'd like to see a few more fantasy points. A+ is really, not you want to get at least 12 from your receiver. And so that was a little bit mildly disappointing there. Cordell Patterson did chip in 3 catches for 19 yards. So you want to see more of that going forward. But Brian Robinson is somebody whose fantasy football stock is now on the upswing. Carolina, 23-10 over Denver. I mean, there's nothing else you could say about the Denver Broncos. They're the most pathetic, disappointing team in the NFL this season. Russell Wilson, 19 of 35. He threw a garbage time touchdown. Sam Darnold threw a touchdown to DJ Moore. I did make note that Moore, I thought he was going to get a spark from Darnold being under center because Moore has played well in the past with Sam Darnold. And, he generally did all right. 4 catches, not great, but 103 yards and a touchdown. Very, very good. So, what was that? 20 fantasy points. So, certainly a very good outing for DJ Moore. He was the only receiver that did anything. Dante Foreman, 24 carries for 113 yards. He's been running very well since Christian McCaffrey got traded. Even Chuba Hubbard was good, 17 for 65 in this ultra run-heavy offense. Latavius Murray, 13 for 92, 7.1 a carry. Not bad there. Only caught 1 pass. Latavius Murray is really just a flex more than anything. Cortland Sutton, 6 for 75. Excuse me, I can't talk tonight. First good game Sutton's had in a long while, so we needed to see this. I still have my doubts on him in the entire Denver offense. Greg Dulcich, 2 for 11. Hard to depend on him going forward. Just really kind of a mess of a game for both sides offensively. All right, let's get to the late afternoon game. So big win for the Chargers. And if you're the Arizona Cardinals, especially if you're a fan, you just shake your head about this team. They just can't get out of their own way. They're now 4-8. I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to get fired at the end of the season. Kyler Murray returned today. He was pretty good. Threw 2 touchdown passes, 191 yards, ran for 56 yards and another score. So Murray did the job, both on the ground and through the air. Thoughts on Jeff Wilson's performance to start him over Aaron Jones because of the matchup? Listen, the matchup was good, but the game got out of hand early and he missed some time with an injury. He's going to be all right, but he should have had more points. And you can't predict injuries. We maybe could have predicted that the game was going to get out of hand and he would hit the bench, but that's just the way it goes sometimes, especially with the injuries. Thoughts on Cordell Patterson's performance? He had 10 fantasy points, still double. Yeah, I mean, listen, he's going to split work with Algier, so you need him to catch some passes. This was the first game he actually really was involved in a passing game, so I'm very lukewarm on him going forward. All right, so Justin Herbert, 35 of 47. He was locked in the whole game, 274, 3 touchdowns, ran for 38 yards. So Justin Herbert, you could put him in there with Joe Burrow as the next best guys after the dual threat passing running quarterbacks for next season. Keenan Allen's back, that helps. Josh Palmer, he's been well. I mean, DeAndre Carter, 7 for 73 in the score. Austin Eckler. What more could you say about Austin Eckler? He only got 5 carries. They went for 20 yards, but 11 catches for 60 yards in a score. He is right there as fantasy football MVP. If we put the ballot out, Eckler's on there. Justin Jefferson is on there. Josh Jacobs is on there. Amazing stuff with Austin Eckler this season. Herbert had over 20 fantasy points, best game. Yeah, listen, I said that he was going to be very good the rest of the season, and I also said for you to buy low on him because his playoff schedule is very attractive. He's got good fantasy matchups in the fantasy football playoff weeks, so I think it's going to be a good ending to the season for him. So James Conner is picking up steam here, 25 for 120. This is the best he's played in a really long while. 3 catches for 20 yards and a score. Maybe he's finally feeling healthy. He's running with burst. He's running with speed that I haven't seen in a very long time for James Conner. So that was nice to see there. DeAndre Hopkins led the way for the Arizona receivers, 4 catches for 87 yards and a score. But Marquise Brown, more catches, 6 for 46. So I'm a little bit concerned if you're a DeAndre Hopkins owner. The targets have gone down now with Marquise Brown back. Maybe it's just a 1-week thing. Maybe not. Going forward, I'm curious to see if Marquise Brown, given his Oklahoma connection with Kyler Murray, if that's going to come at the expense of DeAndre Hopkins going forward. So we'll just have to see. Josh Palmer, 5 for 56. Keenan Allen, 5 for 49, and he scored. Any Keenan Allen touchdown is always a bonus because he doesn't score very many touchdowns. All right, we talked about Josh Jacobs. Nothing else needs to be said there. 48 fantasy points. My goodness. If you lost with Josh Jacobs, then you got to do something else with your time and stop doing fantasy. Derek Carr, 25 at 36, 295, 2 touchdowns and a pick. This is one of his better games in a while. 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. Despite the interceptions, he played fairly well. Carr's been banged up a lot this season. Multiple times this year, he's gone out with to be looked at with an injury issue, and then he comes back. So I will give him that. He's tough as nails. He's always out there. And this was a good outing for the Raiders. Geno Smith, 27-37, still playing well. 328, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Ran for 22 yards. He's not turning back into a pumpkin, folks. Geno Smith is doing the job. He's been doing it all year. Kenneth Walker. So, man, you talk about glass half full outing. 14 for 26 is pathetic. That's 1.9 a carry, but he scored 2 touchdowns. So that 14 fantasy points. He didn't catch a pass, right? Oh, he did catch one. So 15, 16. So 16.3. Even though he averaged 1.9 a carry. So that, if you're in a standard league especially, the touchdowns really can overinflate a player's weekly performance, and that was the case for Kenneth Walker. Devontae Adams, 7 catches for 74 yards. The guy just simply can't be stopped. Mac Hollins, 4 for 63 and a score. So Foster Moreau, 3 for 33 and a score. So he made the most of his limited opportunities. So DK Metcalf, I know a lot of people on the stream this morning had asked me a lot of various questions. Who would you start? And DK was one of them. And I said, start Metcalf because he has the potential to score every week. Well, he didn't score in this one, but he just caught 11 passes for 90 yards. Tyler Lockett scored and he only caught 3, but they went for 68 yards. So once again, Geno Smith has saved and propped up the fantasy value of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Both receivers have been terrific almost on a weekly basis the entire season, and that's thanks to Geno Smith. All right, Kansas City Chiefs, 26-10 over the Rams. So the Rams, they fought hard. They're just overmatched. Bryce Perkins was terrible. Pat Mahomes. Listen, this was the week to go against Pat Mahomes in fantasy football, 27-42, 320, but he only threw 1 touchdown. He actually threw a pick as well, 36 rushing yards on 4 carries. So this was one where if you played Mahomes, you survived with your head intact. All right, the Rams rushing game, more slop, 8 for 37 for Cam Akers. Kyron Williams actually got 11 carries. He led the way in touches there in the backfield, but only for 35 yards, 3.2 per carry. He did catch 3 passes for 25 yards. So he has skills catching the football. So I still think, if the offensive line wasn't so hideous for the Rams, I think we might see a little bit more out of Kyron Williams, but the whole team is just a mess right now. It really is. You can't use anybody there. Isaiah Pacheco, 22 for 69, 1 touchdown. He's clearly the workhorse back right now. He did catch a pass for 17 yards, so that was good. Sky Moore has been dusted off, 5 for 36, so that was good to see. Travis Kelce, another touchdown, 4 touchdowns the last 2 games. 4 catches for 57 yards. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 4 for 56. So he overshadowed Juju Smith-Schuster, who killed everybody today. Smith-Schuster, 3 for 38. Very disappointing performance out of him. Certainly I expected more from Smith-Schuster. He scored 155 points this week and still lost. Oh, my God. So, Jeff, let me guess. You played against Josh Jacobs or Justin Herbert or Chris Godwin. How many of those guys did you play against? Or even Nick Chubb? Because I played against all of them in the one league. I played against Josh Jacobs. I played against Nick Chubb. I played against Chris Godwin. I played against Justin Herbert. And the guy is on pace for 180 points in that league. So, Jeff, I'm curious if you played against any of those guys. Jacobs, yes. See, there you go. Who has a better playoff schedule, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson? I believe Deshaun Watson does. I didn't like Jackson's schedule. I did a video on that not too long ago. So make sure you check that out. San Francisco 49ers. This is a scary team, folks. I stand by 49ers going to the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. That is my pick. You went against Jefferson too. Yeah, there you go. Jimmy Garoppolo threw another touchdown. He threw 4 last week. He was 26 to 37 for 222 this week. No interceptions. He's doing the job there. Pittman or Watson? Josh, I'm going Pittman. Andy Dalton, 18 of 29. No touchdowns, no picks. Ran for 21 yards. Maybe they try Jameis Winston again. Who knows? Alvin Kamara, horrendous. 7 for 13 running the football. He did catch 6 passes for 37 yards, but 2 lost fumbles. just pathetic. And he got dinged up. He had to go to the blue tent, wound up coming back. Just, he's been bad the last 3 weeks. There's no other way to look at it, and that's with Andy Dalton. So very, very disappointed in Alvin Kamara. I wish I had KC, just kept Juju out another week. Disappointing performance for sure. I'm not sure if he was still impacted by the concussion or whatnot. Who deserves to be paid more, Lamar Jackson or Josh Jacobs? Oh, Lamar Jackson. You don't pay running backs, not anywhere near what the quarterbacks get. But not to take anything away for Jacobs' season. So Eli Mitchell, we talked about his injury. Christian McCaffrey, only 11 for 32. He has a knee, quote, irritation, according to Kyle Shanahan. McCaffrey, 4 catches for 17 yards. So like Pat Mahomes, this was the week to play Christian McCaffrey in fantasy because he really just didn't do much of anything. Receiving game. So Chris Olave, 5 for 62. He's not scoring touchdowns, so that's dinging his fantasy, his weekly output there. Taysom Hill, 6 carries for 13 yards. He caught one ball for 7. And did he throw a pass? He was 0 for 1. So even at tight end, you can't really depend on him anymore. Like I said, it was fun while it lasted with Taysom Hill, but that's over. If Jeff Wilson can't get more than 11.5 PPR points at most out against the Texans, and why? Sorry, I'm late, but need to rant. Yeah, listen, like I said, he left with an injury, proved to be okay, but also the game got out of hand quickly, and they pulled the starters. Do you think the Ravens will move on for Lamar Jackson? No, I think they'll bring him back. They're going to pay him. I think they have to. They go to the playoffs every year pretty much. I think they're going to. Now, with that said, if the Ravens, they've been blowing a lot of bad games this year. If they do get into the playoffs and they go one and done, then maybe that would give the team pause to maybe look to go with somebody else. Brandon Ayuk, 5 for 67. So Deebo Samuel, 3 for 43, 2 carries, no yards. So it was another dud. So I was worried. He was good last week. I still think he's the 4th option. George Kittle, 3 for 26. He wasn't great either, but I still have a lot of concern going forward about Deebo Samuel being left behind in terms of his standing in this offense. So we just got to see. So anyway, let me just see. Yeah, so that one league that 10-2, I have Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Devontae Smith, Allen Lazard, and T. Higgins at wide receiver. So again, and Chris Godwin as well. So I have Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Chris Godwin, Devontae Smith, Allen Lazard, and T. Higgins. So not the most sexy names, but they're all, Higgins, Smith, Lazard, and Godwin are all exceeding their draft costs right now. I have Jonathan Taylor, Ramondre Stevenson as my running backs, and Leonard Fournette, but he's obviously not in a good place right now fantasy-wise. I have Travis Kelce as my tight end, and then I have Justin Fields on my bench. Dalton Schultz is also on my bench. So that team is doing really well for me. So that's why I'm having the better season in that one, I think. Do you think Lamar seems super fed up, used the F word at the press conference after the game? I wonder if he's ready to make a move. Yeah, you know what? He could be. They haven't shown him the money. He sticks his neck out every week. He's running the ball a lot. It's just crazy how they haven't paid him yet. I mean, really, it's just beyond ludicrous. All right. Do you think wide receivers deserve to be a first draft pick over running backs who was able to land Tyreek Hill and Devontae? Yes, I've done this. I've said this for years now. Wide receiver has to be the first round draft pick. Now, truth be told, Cooper Kupp, he's injured this season. We've had some big name wideouts go out injured this season. But Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, they're all supplying the value we expected. Whereas there's been some running backs who have gone out injured this season. The numbers are down. There's just way too much injury risk when it comes to running backs. Lamar's playing poorly, so will all the offensive play. Yeah, they are. Mark Andrews doesn't look right. I think the scheme sucks too. I just don't like the play calling. Thinking of rolling with the Jets D rest of the season. They play the Bills and Vikings. Yeah, listen. They're racking up the sacks. They're piling up sacks on a weekly basis. It's crazy how good this team is playing right now defensively. And now they have a spark offensively as well. All right. Let's see. I'm checking the schedule. Fantasy. I see the quarterfinal start week 16. Should I start? Should it start week 15? So the final matchup ends week 17. No. Yes. So there's 18 weeks now, right? So yeah. So the fantasy football playoffs should end the week before the last regular season game. So this week, this season, they should end week 17. The playoffs should start week 15. There should be 3 rounds of playoffs. You need to have 3 rounds of playoffs. In a 12-team league, 6 teams should make the playoffs. So that makes it more interesting. Weeks 15, 16, and 17 should be the playoff weeks. Any scenario where you're trading Travis Kelce, is there anything that you would take? I would never trade Travis Kelce. No chance. The guy is a unicorn. He is a game breaker. He's a cheat code, whatever adjective you want to use. I will never trade Travis Kelce because he gives you such an extreme advantage over everybody else in the league. Even Mark Andrews this season, he is head and shoulders above him. Do you think Rachaad White is a must-start going? I do think so. I just think, though, with Leonard Fournette coming back, he's going to be like a running back 2, whereas he was, served as a running back 1 for this week. So I do think, he's in the conversation to be an every week guy. Running back 2 with Leonard Fournette, running back 1 without Leonard Fournette. So, all right. So we got quite a few new subscribers during the stream today. So I'm really happy about that. Thank you guys. Up to 1,094. So we're getting close to another threshold. So that's good. So we got to listen. It was a crazy day. It really was. So let me just check some of the injury news before I say goodnight here. We talked about Christian McCaffrey. Allen Robinson's done. Alvin Kamara went to the tent and he came back. Yeah, so, nothing new in terms of any injury updates, but certainly we'll check on that. Should Taysom Hill be listed as a quarterback so fantasy teams can't use him as fantasy cheat code? We've talked about that all season long. I'm fine with him as a tight end. He really doesn't have a position. So the Saints had said during the offseason they were converting him to a tight end, so that's why Yahoo put him as a tight end. It was a proactive designation, I guess, if you will. I guess they made a mistake doing that, but I'm fine with it. Hey, boss, have the Lions fix their run D by stacking the box? I have a feeling Etienne Hasty won't do well. So it's very possible. Yeah, they stacked the box against Saquon Barkley. They didn't let Barkley do anything. We got to see what's going on with the foot injury for Etienne. I haven't gotten any update on that. I'm concerned about it just because there is a history of foot injuries with Travis Etienne. So that's something that we have to look at going forward. I still don't think it's JaMychal Hasty automatically. I think Darrell Henderson is certainly going to play next week. Maybe they split work. I don't know. But, we just have to see. Should the Saints use Taysom Hill more in Europe? They should. I mean, the offense is not working right now. Do they go back to Jameis Winston next week? I think that's a possibility. I mean, they have to try something. It's just not working right now. How do you think Aaron Jones will do against Philadelphia tonight? That's a very tough run defense, Trevor. It's almost like Tennessee last week, and Jones struggled in that game. I'm curious to see. I'm not holding my breath, though, that he's going to have a big game. I think it'll be a split back. Yeah, I think it's going to be a split backfield as well. So, it was a mixed bag for me. Like I said, I'm going to 10-2 in one league, 7-5 in the other. I'm on the border in that 7-5 league. I'm actually going to move up from 6th to 5th because I scored a lot of points, even though I lost. And the person that I'm passing, I've passed them at points. I'm just curious. So I'm on pace for 131 points, which is more than everybody else in this league except for my opponent, who's on pace for 184. There's one other team that's on pace for 135. So, God, that just drives me fucking crazy when that happens. Excuse my language. When you would outscore everybody else except your opponent. There's teams in this league that have. There's one matchup in this league that I'm in where the score is 72-51, and they're projected to each have 72 points, which is absolutely piss poor. And here I am with 131 prospective points, and I would have slaughtered both of those guys. So, like I said, I really think Yahoo has to get in on the all play situation. And I think all leagues should do this next year, where you have 2 matchups each week, your head-to-head matchup, and you play the whole league. So 12-team league, the top 6 teams each week to the top 6 scoring teams each week get a W, and then you can get a second W by outscoring your head-to-head opponents. You can go 2-0, you can go 1-1, 0-2, what have you. I think that's great. Yahoo hasn't implemented that. I know there's that sleeper app and all that stuff. I've never used that, but I think it's time that the rest of the fantasy industry gets on that. Thoughts on Chris Olave's performance? He was solid. He's been solid but unspectacular just because the touchdowns haven't been there, and he's been let down by the quarterback play. And Andy Dalton doesn't stretch the field like Jameis Winston does. If Jameis Winston becomes the quarterback again, then I think he's going to see, more big play opportunities. I agree about Hasty. 28 yards rushing isn't going to cut it. I put Henderson on waivers to stop ETN owner. Yeah, I mean, listen, Henderson's the better player, and I think he'll be the guy. If ETN misses time. I was about to put my fellow hog trail on Burks instead of Olave in the flex. Stupid projections. Yeah, the projections are annoying. I try to ignore those. Thoughts on Josh Jacobs this week? League winner. If there's a Josh Jacobs owner that lost this week, I'd like to see it. Because I'd almost find that hard to believe. 48 fantasy points. I'm jealous. Definitely jealous. So we got 2 regular season weeks left. I'm going to probably get the bye, which is huge in that 1 week league that I'm 10-2. The other league, I have to win next week. I'm going to be in 5th place, 1 game up above the cut line. So there's going to be 3 teams that have 6 wins. I have 7. It's like balls to the wall time for sure. If you lost with Jacobs, you probably also had ETN. Yeah, I would think so. That's probably one of the only scenarios that you would possibly lose with Josh Jacobs. I mean, there was some crazy scores this week. But anyway, all right, so we went through the injuries, went through the games, another nutty week. I'm going to do another live stream tomorrow to do, the injury updates and whatnot. I might do, no, I'm not going to have time to do the stream during the game tomorrow. So we'll do the regular Monday stream, probably around 5:30. Update all the injuries, whatnot, take some questions, discuss the waiver wire, and go from there. So make sure you look for that notification tomorrow. So everybody have a great night. Another week in the books. Can't believe it. We will talk tomorrow, and just be well, and I'll see you then.